Right, here we go, let's get going. Right, so it's just going to be a normal lesson, and you're going to have to access this a little bit early. I've made myself some little notes here, so I don't go off on one. Yeah, I don't want to deviate. And I'm going to start again as if it's from scratch. Okay, are we all right with that?
Yeah.
Okay, right from the word go, because you've been doing your exams, haven't you, Becca? Right, so what we did was the organisation. Right, all the way through your theory, the theory exam in year 13, you're going to be expected to know elements of business studies. Okay, you're going to have to understand commercial awareness, and it's not just about computers and systems and all that. So the whole of ICT and systems and computers, really, they're just a tool. They're facilitators, aren't they? They facilitate the flow of communication around an organisation. Why is communication so important in an organisation? What is it that you keep making every minute of the day? Decisions, yeah. Well, they say that you live and die by your own decisions. You know, in pavement speak for it is, you make your bed, you lie in it. At work, you know, do you buy, do you sell, do you hire, do you fire, do you sell cheaper, do you sell more expensive? One decision can either make or break a company. And remember in year 12 how you learn about the theory of data, information and knowledge. Data, raw and processed facts and figures. Information is when you process it, you give it a context, you give it a meaning. And information, knowledge, is when you use information to support you in the decision-making process. You need to understand now how data flows around an organisation, and how the flow of it can either impede or assist decision-making processes. And before you can do that, you go down to the next level and you have to understand the structure of the organisation, how organisations can differ in the way that they're built. An organisation, some people say that you need to define an organisation, and some books talk along the lines of it's a collective of more than one individual with the same purpose and direction in life. You know, I don't want to get too like institute and managery about it, but like two people could be in partnership and they're both directing an organisation, that partnership, in the same direction. All right? Don't start talking about how it's a profit-making organisations. Some organisations exist for different purposes other than just to make money. So, an organisation, now you need to understand some basic fundamental topological representations of organisations, and the traditional one would be like the hierarchical one like that, yeah? That sort of shape. Okay, that's also called, so that's a hierarchy. Okay, it's also called some people refer to it as an autocracy. Right? An autocracy just means there's one person at the top, they're predominantly the decision makers. The trouble with that, as I've said before, is that whilst communication and the flow of data comes down from the top down to the bottom very easily, right, it slides down, it's very difficult for it to get up to the top. You know, some guy in a post room down here might have a phenomenal idea that could change the whole organisation, and trying to get it to someone up here, which could be 10,000 miles away, on a Learjet at 30,000 feet, is really difficult. Whereas, believe me, the guy in the Learjet at 30,000 feet, the head of Sony, has no trouble getting hold of one of his minions anywhere on the planet. He just makes a phone call. Now, in business studies, you would learn about the theory of delayering, which is where you take the layers out in order to facilitate the flow of communication. This is all about the C in ICT. Okay, it's all about the C in ICT. We live in a communicative age. Every one of you has got your phones on you at the minute. And every one of you will make 100 decisions today based upon a text that you get. Okay, it's no difference, and you're living in your own little world, which is your organisation. Similarly, out in the real world, the commercial world, the same sort of theory applies there. So that's a typical hierarchy autocracy. You don't have to get too in-depth about it, you don't have to go too mad about it, you just need to understand these different concepts. And what's really irritating is, as soon as I say this, I'll change it as well. You never really ever get an organisation purely like that, built like that. If you look at this school, people would say, yeah, this school is like that. But this school is also, you could say, is a cell structure. A cell structure is where the organisation is broke up into what, like it says on the tin, cells. But within those cells, you can have little hierarchies and autocracies within those as well. The good thing about this sort of thing here is it's very easy to find the decision maker. When you walk through the front door, you know, somebody on desk there, it's like to come into this building here, you go down to reception and you say, who makes the decisions in this building? There we go, straight away, right, you've got 2-3 people at the top, you've got the principal and you've got the deputy principals. Okay, now, the trouble with a cell organisation like that is it's very difficult sometimes to find who's the decision maker, because it can be very fragmented. Okay, but without getting too businessy study about it, the good thing about this, the bad thing about this from a motivational point of view is sometimes you can feel a bit swallowed up by it, and it's a bit of a mountain to climb to progress. So some people say that it's quite demotivational operating in that sort of environment, and that when you're stuck at the bottom down here, you know, to get to the top and pull yourself up that greasy pole is quite difficult, whereas a cell organisation like this, because it's not as big, you don't feel like you're swallowed up by the machine, and you feel as though you're contributing more and you've got more of a role within the organisation. But you could, like I say, you could still have little autocracies and hierarchies based within it. Okay, so as long as you can understand. Now, if you look at both of those snapshots there, each one of these, technically, those layers there, they're a boundary. Okay, each one of those is a boundary. Okay, and a boundary is obviously a restriction, isn't it, to the flow of data, just by the nature of the word. If you look at this one here, these are boundaries. Okay, simply by separating them geographically over a remote area, like some factories do. No, cell block A, cell block B, cell block C, and that. They could be 200-300 meters apart. Okay, that could have all sorts of implications within systems, not just for the flow of data, but also the build of a system. You know, whether you're going to go for a LAN, a WAN, your routers. Look at this school here now. You've got Escort across the road, you've got the primary school, you've got the senior school here. So we've got a cell structure going on, haven't we? That's across the road there. We can have that as a road. But we've also got it as a cell. And across the road, you've got the principal of Escort, you've got the principal of the primary schools. Okay, so you would need to go into it. So what I'm trying to get at is that you have different combinations of these things. They're not sort of mutually, they're not exclusive of each other. You'll get blends of them, hybrids. So are you all good with structures of organisations? Yeah. The good thing about that is don't get too purist when you're in the exam room, and don't start going off on one. I'd have to stop myself doing it. What's the R word that I keep telling you to do in the exam all the time? Relate, 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 relate. So if you get anything that suggests that you have to understand about the structure of an organisation, give them a little bit about it, but don't give them a side and a half about the difference between hierarchical and cell structures. Okay, they don't want that. They don't want to know that you can just read a book and regurgitate it on the day. So there's your basic. Now, I actually said the word boundary in there, so I'm just going to cover boundaries now. I know that you know it, but you might not remember it in about 10 weeks' time when you're revising. So, boundaries. Boundaries are what they say on the tin again. It's a restriction, a boundary. It's a wall, isn't it? Okay, it's a point at which you meet, and it can either slow you down or stop you. Boundaries within organisations, they're good and they're bad. Okay, you look at the word and you say it's a boundary, and it sort of infers that it's a bad thing, but it can be bad and it can be good. Why could a boundary be good? Why could?
As a physical boundary.
Yeah, yeah.
It stops people getting into your.
Right. The good thing about it is it can be used as a security device, can't it? Now, boundaries are either physical or logical in nature. So a boundary is either physical or logical. A door, a wall, an alarm. A man with a dog, they're a physical boundary. Okay, organisations use those all the time to impede restriction and movement around an organisation. Then you've got a physical boundary, so it breaks down into either physical or logical. Physical, a bit obvious, you know, a bit of barbed wire, security. Logical boundaries, they're not as obvious. This is where you need to understand here. Right, a logical boundary could be something as simple as you don't get on with somebody within an organisation. You know, if you don't get on with someone in an organisation, you're not going to talk with them, you're not going to engage with them, are you? If you don't engage with them, how do you know within that organisation that you haven't missed out on the best things?
That's bad though, isn't it?
Sorry?
That's a bad thing.
Yeah, it is a bad thing, yeah. Which is why they have team building exercises. Okay, I don't want to get postgraduate on you here, but that's why companies have team building exercises to bring down logical boundaries between, between different areas. Because each person within the organisation is almost like a cell structure, part of the cell structure. Yeah? So a logical boundary could be something as simple as you don't like them. It could be a job description. That's not my job. I don't do that. So that would impede the flow of data. Another logical boundary. Can anyone think of any other logical boundaries that you can have? Anything at all?
Like job description.
Yeah, well done. So job descriptions, whether you like people or not. Okay, so it's job descriptions, whether you like people or not. Anything that is sort of logically restricts that flow of data going around the organisation. Okay, because then you're going to get cold spots. And this here is why when you do your project, you had to do your DFDs. You know your data flow diagram? You know earlier on you did your analysis, you did your fact finding, then you went into your design section, and within your design section you had to do a DFD, a data flow diagram, because really me talking now, all I'm doing is it's just a flow of data from me to you, innit? That's all it is. You know, if you hate me and I hate you, we're not going to have this conversation, and that's going to give you a problem, isn't it? If you're in another room, I can't do it. If you're in another department, I can't do it. And simply by virtue of the fact that I'm filming this now and that I'm going to upload it on the internet, that brings down all those boundaries, doesn't it? Okay, so I'm trying to facilitate the flow of data from it. All education is somebody getting data from them and giving it to you. That's all it is. And on the day, in the exam room, you make the decision. Hopefully you make the right one when you write the answers. Are you starting to see this sort of more holistically? I know I told you it gets a bit sort of esoteric. You know, why get you at the start of year 12 and it's what's data, information and knowledge, which is baby stuff, right through to the logical theories of boundaries and communication and the flow of data. Right? So that's why you do your data flow diagram, and you had to do it before and an after. And when you did the first one for the organisation, it's all over the place, isn't it? Like it's going backwards and forwards and here, like that. So it's a nightmare. In fact, I can give you, I've got it at home, I've got an example. Mr. McRoyal over at Art has said to me, can I build something on the VLE for him? And he's given me like a graphical representation of it, and it's like, what? And I actually had a meeting with him and I went, I can tell you're an artist, mate. You know, he's landscaped this DFD. For a start, no one landscapes a DFD. By nature, it's a vertical thing, isn't it? It's a tree and branch structure. You know, you have it linear going down. By nature, you would expect it to be start at the top and finish at the bottom. He starts at the left and finishes at the right. And things join up with things. And I'm saying, you know, where does this go? You're saying this goes to that, goes to that. And I said, can I just start from scratch? And so he's put in my way lots of boundaries for me to build him something as a system. If any of you go out and work out there, you'll realise that people think in funny ways, you know, not a logical way. So you would start with a version like that, and hopefully you would sort of streamline it. Hopefully it would have a start point, go down. You might have the odd little decision loop coming down, but on the whole, you start seeing the nature of it. You're making it vertical and you're streamlining it. So hopefully you've done something like that in your project, a basic DFD, data flow diagram, which is part of your design toolkit. So it's part of your design toolkit. It's also, a DFD is part of, who would use a DFD? It's one of their tools, a project manager. Project manager would use a DFD. What is the relevance of a project manager using a DFD as part? If you go in the exam room and it says, you know, a project manager has various tools and tasks and responsibilities. What are these? And it's a great big one, 15 marks like that. Straight away, you know, hopefully you're going to go on about what? Critical path analysis. You're going to do all this, aren't you? These are the tools that he's got: critical path analysis, entity relationship diagrams, and DFDs. All right, so don't forget those, yeah. ERDs. Entity relationship diagrams, you know, when you build your database, you show your relationships one-to-one, one-to-many, many-to-many and all that, because that's critical when you're building a new system. DFDs, which show the flow of data going around. And then your CPA. Right, the CPA, your critical path analysis, is concentrating on what? Reducing what?
Timescale.
You're getting this, aren't you? Timescale, which is one of the biggest resources that you've got. DFD, right, a data flow diagram would have all sorts of implications to designers in terms of security, who has access to what, and also try and find hot and cold spots and weaknesses in security, and where that flows around the system. The entity relationship diagram, I'll do that one later on for you. All right, why that's so critical to a project manager. I'll do a whole thing on project management later on, in case you get a question on it. So, moving on. So, do you understand your physical and logical boundary thing? Bits about it, yeah? Another question that they could ask you is, how could you overcome the boundaries in an organisation? Now, I would expect, and this is really related. Don't get all purist and theoretical about this, yeah. But how would you start to bring down boundaries? Let's just say we make it a real situation. ABC Limited has brought in a new system, and this system requires that there's certain restructuring within the organisation. And this restructuring is down to you to bring these boundaries, these physical and logical boundaries down. Let's start. Physical boundaries. How are you going to bring them down? Because how are you going to sell these people £500,000 worth of network if you don't even understand? You know, if you don't even understand the concept.
You need like passwords.
physical stuff. That's illogical because it doesn't exist. Physical,
You
you can
need
touch
doors
it.
with passwords, you need security guards, cameras.
Yeah. Well, no, they want it brought down.
Oh, they want it brought down.
Yeah,
Get
yeah.
rid of
What are
the
you going to do? They call it
Open plan.
open plan everything. Open plan. Go into a lot of buildings now, and they've knocked all the stud walling down. Where years ago it used to be very tribal, very isolated in little units. And I'm in room 1A and you're in room. I can remember when I started commercial union years ago. It was abroad. It was everybody was like, you had like 6 or 7 people like this to an office in this huge office block. And then when I went abroad and I came back and I worked in Alpha Tower in Brum, that every floor in Alpha Tower, there's not a single. I don't know what's holding that building up. Bit of goodwill, I think. I don't know what is keeping that building up. But the whole of it is open plan, and in the middle of it, it's got a lift, this lift shaft. And you can see, and they actually lowered the dividers between it, so you could see people across. And they actually said, "Can everybody stop shouting across at each other?" It got too good. I'd say, "Gary, have you got this on you?" And people would be shouting across on phones with clients like that. So open plan it. You hot desk it as well, yeah. That's a very big hot desk. In other words, look, when you came in and I said, "Can you not sit there?" You joked about it, but you weren't happy about it. It's because you're a creature of habit. We all are. If you all come in and you sit down in the same area, just by virtue of the fact that you choose to sit in the same area, is putting up boundaries, isn't it? You could sit in a room. You could sit in a room that's 20, 30 metres across, an office, and you can work. It's like they say, some of the loneliest places in the world are in a cul-de-sac or on an estate. And in a tower block, you can be in a tower block with 500 people and you never get to know anyone. Similarly, in an office, a force of habit makes you sit in that same chair every day. Now that's you putting all little barriers up. I don't want to tull up with her over there. I don't like him 20 foot away from me, so I'm going to sit in my little chair. So a way of coming out is hot desking, which means nobody has a desk. You're not allowed to put your own personal belongings in it. You can't put anything. They have desks without drawers. You can't put anything on the top. And you just sit wherever you like, and if you keep sitting on the same thing, you can move people about. That way, that facilitates communication within an organisation. Because one day you might sit on a chair next to somebody in the organisation you've hardly ever met, and you've worked there for 10, 15 years, and you suddenly find that you're both working on the same sort of little bit of projects, and you start sharing information, don't you? There's the I in CT. ICT, you start sharing that information, yeah? So you're starting to communicate, all right? Is this starting to gel a little bit now? Why companies are so obsessed with it? Okay, so that's your hot desking. Okay, all good. They're physical, but these are ways of overcoming physical boundaries. Unplanned hot desking. There's going to be others. There's whole books written on this stuff, but we don't have either the time nor the inclination to do it. Now let's do some logical stuff, yeah? How would you overcome logical boundaries? Not that logical boundaries are bad, because a logical boundary is a password, isn't it? You don't want to turn around and say, "Oh, we've got no boundaries anyway." You go, "What? Yummy. Let me in. Leave me in there. I'll find some stuff out."
So give them like a user or a password to get into it, like share.
Well, no. Logical boundaries would be things like passwords and access rights, like read, write only. But why? Yeah, you don't want to take them all down. But why would you want to? How could you bring some logical boundaries down? We said that a logical boundary would be a job description, whether you like somebody, whether you're in a different department. These on a piece of paper that you're in marketing, and on a piece of paper they're in accounts, and you don't speak to each other. How could you bring that down? Let's say you're selling them a system. You're selling British Telecom a system that is going to start bringing all their 10,000 employees together to start sharing information. Because up until then they've got all these logical and physical boundaries. You've already told them, hot desk, bring those down. Let's change the physical look of your buildings across the UK. Now you're the guys that are going to go in and sell the system to them. How are you going to flog them a system that is going to bring down all those logical boundaries? What might you suggest to them to get people to share information? What might you put across to them? When I tell you, you're going to go, "Oh my God, that is so obvious." How would you get people to share people? Share people. How would you get people to share info?
Talk about it.
Say what?
Communicate.
Yeah, using computers. How would you do it?
Like email stuff to them.
Yeah. Email groups. So you could have group emails, yeah? So whenever you email to groups, more people are sharing, more, start CCing more, start CCing, carbon copying on your emails. Make it company policy that whenever you say anything, it's like with the boss here, Dr. Neeson here, whenever I do anything at all that I think concerns this organisation, I always CC it to him, always. Just to keep him in the loop. I don't know whether he reads it or not. No, I mean, that's his choice. But It's like we had a Moodle meet on Tuesday where I'm building the new VLE, the new Moodle. Yeah. Now I think that I shouldn't work autonomously, which means I shouldn't work with total authority, with nobody controlling what I do. Now some people think that they should do that, but I sent out an email to a load of people saying, look, this is what we're going to be talking about, this is what we're going to be doing. I CC'd it to him, A, as respect, and B, as he's there, isn't he? He's at the top there, he's the one that left holding the baby if it all goes wrong. So he can look at what I'm doing, and he can say, yeah, you should do that. Like when I did when I'm meeting with these Chinese people, I CC'd him on that. He actually read one and sent it back and said, oh, can you get Ian Martin, the bursar, to sit in on it? Because there's certain legislative things that you have to observe. Like if I start selling something to China online, we're a registered charity, we might have to set a separate company up, Hume PLC, for tax purposes. And I'd never thought of that. I was too engrossed in the systems side of it, yeah? So an email group is a good way. So send out to groups, don't just send out to one people. Don't start getting insular and me, myself and all the rest. What else could you do? Obviously not on the scale of the internet. Go on, sounds like it. You could set up a what? Yeah, you could go VLEs in an education environment, but what else? I mean, a VLE is a perfect example of not an internet, but an intranet. Maybe start setting up things like intranets. An intranet is a company-wide internet, isn't it? An intranet is a company-wide internet. Maybe you've got things within the organisation that you need to get across to some of your clients. Okay, really critical stuff, like new products coming out of R&D. Maybe you're a development company and your clients, by the time they get to hear about it, they've gone to your competitors or they've gone overseas. If you had an intranet, what would you suggest? Anyone, what would you suggest? You know it. If I tell you, you'll hate yourself for not shouting it out. We're an organisation now, we sell high-tech stuff. Like we sell, I don't know, developmental flat speakers and things like that. And we've got clients in California, we've got them in Hong Kong, we've got them all over the place, and it's real cutting edge, and it's one of those businesses that you work in that if you don't get them your product straight away, they'll go somewhere else. How could we've got an intranet, how could we bring them into it so that they can make a decision to maybe buy 20,000 of these units at a time by bringing down these barriers again? You've got an internet, an intranet, and an nearly, I thought you were going to say it. Go on. Extranet. You could maybe bring in an extranet. An extranet, extra means to go outside, yeah? Intra means internal, extra means outside, yeah? So intra is inside, extra is outside. An intranet is a company-wide internet where everybody can tap into it and share information, and you can put various access rights. Yeah, a lot of companies use them as company magazines. What's going on, because you imagine if you work for a big firm like EDS and you're scattered across the planet, your sharing of information, finding out what's going on is absolutely critical. So it helps you make decisions in your little department, finding out how other people work, what the new products are, what decisions are being made about expansions, what jobs are available, what training's available. Some people are employed just to maintain an intranet. Now, an extranet, you could include an area on it which could be leveled and targeted at your clients, and it could just give them your best customers. It could just give them some limited access, telling them about some of the latest products, developments, prices, sales of goods, things like that. Then you could just say, look here, I'll click on this and find out what's going on. The primary school across the road the other day, Amanda Knott, she phoned me up and she said, how can I set up something on this VLE you've got to let the parents know what to do in the event of bad snow? And I said, well, why would you want me to set you a link up on the front of it? If you have a look on the VLE, you'll see a picture of a snowman, and I've said click here for snow day work, and all that is a link. I put a hypertext link onto that image of a snowman on the front of the VLE to a course that I just called Snow Day course for primary school. Okay, and what I did then was I showed her how to upload all the guidance for parents, and then I got the URL, the web ID for that hyperlink, right-click, copied it, pasted it into an email to her, and I said, here you go, Amanda, send an email out to all the parents and just say, click on here to go to see what to do if we're snowed under, if you get 6 inches of snow and you can't come into school. And now you imagine as a parent there, what you're doing there is sharing information, isn't it? So now, as a parent of a toddler that you can't get into school that day, you'll think, God, I'm going out my head with boredom here. I pay X amount of thousands of pounds from a year to go to school, and they're having a free day sitting at home. Now they can just log on, click on that, and get them to sit at home and do this, give them some worksheets, and you can print it off if you want. Now that's a perfect example, isn't it, of bringing down all those boundaries. One of the boundaries that you've brought down there is a geographical boundary, isn't it? So you've destroyed that geographical boundary, which was the biggest impedance to the flow of data and communication between parents and staff. Okay, are we good with it? I know you're probably thinking, oh my God, how do you remember all this? I could talk till 5 o'clock on this stuff tonight. But if you can see it, don't necessarily remember it, if you understand it, if you can get your head around the concept of it, you're halfway there to realising why the world is ICT mad. You're halfway to understanding it and why they spend such a lot of money on it. Alright? And they do. It's massive. So VLE, intranet, extranet. Another thing, a classic one, is have meetings, open meetings. Have regular meetings, you know, where you can share best practice, you can bring people together and they can just discuss stuff. It's like I had one, like I was saying, on the new VLE that I'm building. I was doing everything myself. And it's not the fact that I was fed up with doing it myself, it was the fact that I didn't know whether I was doing it right and everybody would like it. So I actually sent a few people, key people, you know, decision makers, an email and said, do you want to sit in on what we call a moot? I know it's a bit trendy and I hate all trendy words, but a moot is a Moodle meet. I said, do you want to, we'll have a first moot, which is where we sit around and we just throw some ideas around. They call them blue sky thinking. And I hate all trendy words, and it's like everyone just throws some stuff about and then you just take out of it what you think's worth, what's good and what's bad. I didn't want a committee because nothing ever gets done with a committee. You just end up with minutes and a camel. They say a camel is the only animal on the planet designed by a committee because it's all made up out of weird different things and you end up with this weird, crazy looking thing, and I didn't want a committee, yeah? So what we do is we throw some ideas about and then we sift the good, you know, we take the chaff from it and we get the good stuff out of it. And that was my approach of bringing down the logical boundaries that exist in this organisation where some use of VLE and some don't. My first tentative step is to do that. I could start CCing everybody into my emails for it, but they won't read it, so it's a pointless exercise, isn't it? All I'm doing is generating just data for nothing. A classic one is this. Classic one is that. Suggestion boxes. That's a classic one. Put it around a building, suggestion boxes. Okay. Very 1980s. And nowadays you tend to find that's done digitally. It used to be the old drop it in, and somebody would open it and go, oh, that's a good idea. And they used to do financial incentives to do that as well. You know, if it's taken up and it saves any money, you can have 10% of the first year saving. IBM used to do that. One guy, I think he got like 50 grand or something on one. And it was a security issue thing that he did. And it was applied across the whole of the planet. Everyone went, oh my God, why didn't we think of that? So sometimes you have to, the trouble with these sort of organisations, people at the top very often forget the ones at the bottom. They think that they're down at the bottom of the pond and that they have no worth and no merit, which is ridiculous. Okay, are we good with the organisation, boundaries, physical, logical, stuff like that? Okay. Now you need to know influences, the influences upon those organisations. Because once again, the influences upon an organisation will change your decisions, won't they? Okay, so you need to be aware that influences upon an organisation come from within and without. Okay, within and without. Because all an organisation is a building with some people in it. That's all it is. That building there with some people in it are accountants. That building there with some people in it are architects. That building over there with some people in it are a medical centre. The only thing that differs between them is what they're delivering. So that's why a business analyst and a business systems analyst specifically can go from one to the other. The topic and the product to them half the time is immaterial. Okay, theoretically I should be able to take one of you now from your project and put you straight on to one of your mates in here and you just carry on with it. It's your first tentative step into doing business systems analyst, yeah, which is why you learn the systems life cycle. I'm hoping here that this is all sort of settling into nice little orders in your head, yeah? Is it? Yes. Are you starting to see it?
Influence is this being a boundary?
Right, influences are things that will make you change your decisions and change like your mind and change things, right? Sorry?
Like external?
Yeah, this is going to your SWOT in it and your PEST. Remember it now, SWOT and PEST. I don't want to, like I say, I don't want to get businessy again. Business studies do like ages on this. They'll do, let's do a business plan, everyone. And before you can do your business plan, you need to do your cash flow forecast. Part of your cash flow forecast is going to be determined by your SWOT analysis. And did anyone do business?
They're all in exam.
Are they? Oh, and then they do a little thing like that, and then they go SWOT. Then they tie it up to marketing, and it's a bit of a yawn. But it's still, to me, it's baby. It's a bit infantile.
What does it stand for?
SWOT: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. No, business studies. I tell you what, if you do this, if you can do this module well, you would devastate business studies. Absolutely devastate it. I think they do it at an infantile level, even at A level. You go way past it. Everything I've taught so far is, well, half of it, I would say, is probably post A level. It's post grad and institute management level stuff. You know, hot desk, open desk theory. I mean, they'll give it names like McGregor's theory and all that sort of stuff, because they've got to, because it's in a book. But at work, it's post A level, and you would easy keep up with what they're doing now in a room. Quite easy. You could do it. Should have done an extra A level on it, you know. And I know you don't want to hear that now, but you should have done it. Put yourself down for the A level. If you read their paper, and you'll know what I'm on about. Eh?
What's PEST stand for?
PEST is political, economic, sociological, technological.
What?
Yeah, I'll write them out for you. Don't worry, darling, I'll write them out for you. Right, you have SWOT, right, which are strengths, weaknesses. This is all going back, yeah, to the organisation again, you know, the structure of it. You're supposed to do your SWOT analysis before you go and approach a bank for money, so that you can go in, because how can you improve if you don't know your strengths, your weaknesses? It's all a bit, like I say, 70s and 80s again. That's changed a bit. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. You're supposed to identify each of these, play to your strengths, work on your weaknesses, right? Definitely take advantage of your opportunities and dominate your threats. This is how they do it, this is how they talk. And what they do is, they always do this in business studies, and they get you to lay it out like this. They love this shape in business studies. They do it for marketing, they do it for all sorts, cash cow, star, and all the rest of it. And what you'll notice that both of these, right, are internal. Strengths and weaknesses are internal. You can control them, can't you? They're your fault, and then they come from you, your strengths and your weaknesses. Okay, you don't get any strength from a third party. Opportunities and threats, if they're internal, these are external, yeah. Now these are the ones really for systems here, the bottom two here, that that you really need to focus on when you're bringing a system in. Opportunities and threats, external opportunities and threats, and how you respond to them. And you should be informed about them through your system. You know, if you look at the definition of an MIS, a management information system, right, textbook definition, it's a system that takes data from both inside the organisation and outside the organisation and presents it in such a format as to help you make correct decisions. So that's an MIS, yeah? It takes data from inside and outside the organisation and supports you in decision-making process. That's like an expert system, it's like an advanced expert system. So that's an MIS. Now, I'm going to skim past that quickly and just go to PEST. This is the one that is really relevant for A2, IT, yeah? PEST. Political, economic, sociological, and technological.
That's not sociological.
Do it phonetically. Sociological, you know? Is it?
Yeah.
It's not sociological, is it sociological?
Yeah.
A lot of those in there, isn't it?
What does the T stand for? Technological.
Technological.
And the E?
Economical. Economics. Political, economics, sociological, technological. If I go through each of these, political, these are going to affect you, affect the organisation, not just in terms of ICT, but generally. Each one of these are going to affect the system, and not just the system, because the system, you have to get this thing out of your head, and I used to do it, I was really guilty of it, is you've got to start divorcing. You start thinking of them as two separate entities. You have your ICT system here, and your computers, and your networks, and your infrastructure, and then you have the organisation here. You've got to stop doing that. That is what's holding you back in remembering stuff. The minute you realise that they're one and the same, and that all that a system is just a representation. It's like saying that you're separate from your nervous system. You know, you can't do it, or you're separate from your endocrine system. The organisation is. All you've done, theoretically, that's why on your project you just have to look at existing way that they work. That's why they obsess over it. A drawing of how it works, the role of the end user. All you're going to try and do is emulate it. That's all you're doing. You're going to try and create this and then bring them together. That's what I'm doing with the VLE. I have to sit in and think, how does that department work? How is it built? And I'm trying to create a digital representation of that, and then I'm trying to populate it with what they do, what they teach, and then I start giving everybody access to my little digital building. So if you can stop divorcing and treating them mutually exclusive, a system and an organisation, again, that's a giant leap to understanding, and being able to stand and waffle about it the way that I do. The minute you do it, you'll gush so much more about it, okay, and you'll be able to waffle about it. So if you look at political is just a fancy way of saying legislative. It's law. So political is system speak for legislation. And when I say legislation, straight away, you should start thinking about your Computer Misuse Act 1990, Data Protection Act, RIPA. What year? RIPA 2000. Copyright and Theft Act. I could just keep writing them, right? I think in the 12 years that Labour were in power, they brought in 12,000 something new laws. Right? How many of those laws are going to impact either positively, or can I just put the echo on? It's quite hot over here. Just for a minute. Right, if each one of these, you have to respond to it. You've got to respond to it, otherwise you're going to end up sharing a cell with a bloke, aren't you? Or you're going to find yourself in court, or county court, or crown court, or you're going to get hit by the tax office. You know, I mean, look at VAT. VAT is enshrined in so much law, it's unbelievable. I mean, there's as many people in prison for VAT avoidance and tax avoidance, tax evadance, right, as there are physical acts of violence and criminal acts of violence, you know. So if you're not aware of this here, the political impact, the external political impacts and effects upon your organisation, you're going to end up in stum. You'll go out of business. Okay, don't pay your tax bill for 5 years and tell me how your business is going. Well, you'll just close you down. You go into liquidation. So you understand the political impacts upon an organisation. You go with that. That's your P and pass. Economic. Once again, in terms of systems and the organisation, this is just that. It's just money. How much money's flapping about? At the minute now, everyone knows there's a recession, bordering on a depression. What's a recession? Isn't it minus growth for 3 quarters simultaneously? I think that's the definition.
So how much money the company has, or?
Well, no, the world, the planet. You've got 2 ways of looking at organisations. You can look at an organisation from a micro point of view, which is looking at the organisation there and focusing within the walls, or you can look at it from a macro. When people talk about microeconomics and macroeconomics, you'll hear that phrase, right? Micro obviously means small. It's the organisation, looking at the economics of the organisation, its pricing structure, its overheads, it's this, it's that. If anybody ever says, oh, it's macroeconomics, it's the country, the economics of the country, okay? So when we're going on about political, pest, this is micro and macro. Micro and macro. Most of it is macro because most of it is external. So most of pest is an external influence, okay? So when you're looking at the economics of it, how much money's flapping about? If we're going to make a decision that we're going to put our price of our goods up 10%, I would expect somebody to turn and say, whoa, hang on a minute, we're in the middle of a recession here. Look at your demand and supply curve here, money there, price there, quantity there. If you look at what happens when the price of something's high, you don't sell a lot of it, so you've got your demand curve there. People would just turn around and say, look, we're selling quite a bit here. Don't put your price up. But your quantity's going to drop down then. So during good times, you sell a lot of Rolls Royces. At the moment, I should imagine mini and small cars are going quite well. Look at the price of petrol. It's going to go through the roof again very shortly. With Iran and that plant closing down. So the price of petrol is going to go up, in South London. So the price of petrol is going to rocket, £7 a gallon soon, I reckon. So everybody, if you're in the business of selling cars, that's going to impact upon us there, isn't it? And also it looks at the amount of money that we've got as an organisation. So that's economic. Another one is sociological. Right, sociological just means looking at sort of the demographics of a country. So it's the demography. It's looking at trends and patterns within a country. Do you want to put the echo on? Is that bad? So if you look at sociological, look at the demography of the UK at the minute. I think everyone's getting older and older and older, and you're going to form part of that as well. Now, if we're a company that sells, I don't know, bouncy castles, we're going to end up in stum if we don't change and react to that external influence. We should start, hey, look, we've got engineers in this place, we've got 400 people working here, we've got plenty of money, we've got good infrastructure, we've got good buildings, what the hell are we still? You know, look at the trends, look at, here's young people, here's old people. I would expect someone somewhere to say, hey, look, we're digging a hole here. I'm 30, I still want to be working here when I'm 50 and 55. I want a pension out of this place. The way we're going at the minute, I don't want to be working here when we're down here. Redundancies and the company collapsing. Why aren't we jumping over here? Why aren't we making Zimmer frames now? Why aren't we looking at making, I don't know, beds that go up and down, up and down? We've got electrical engineers here. Let's shift what we do into a different marketplace, yeah? So that would be looking at sociological trends. Look at, you're not telling me that Sony and Nokia and people like that aren't acutely aware of social networking, social trends, right? And Twitter and Facebook and all the rest of them. They know, they're talking about fingers on the pulse. They know exactly what you want, when you want it, how you want it, and how much you're going to pay for it. They know what the next thing is. Some people will say that marketeers actually create demand. They don't look at it and respond to it, they actually create it. They're very clever at creating a need within you. But similarly, they find what's going on out in the marketplace. They know exactly what you want, and that's why they keep delivering it to you. Okay? So sociological, you understand that? Sociological is obviously an impact. How many people now in here would set up, I don't know, a fur coat manufacturing firm? You'd be mad. I've got 100,000 quid. My old man's giving me 100,000 quid. I've decided I'm going to start a fur company. Well, you're not. Don't you watch the news? Models having buckets of blood thrown on them in Paris, you know, and ban this and all the rest. You know where they're going on with fur coats. So they're not aware of all the external pressures that are going on in terms of fashion. Fashion would come under this. Fashion, trends, trade unions, things like that. You need to understand all these different things. If they turn around and say that, oh, XYZ Limited or ABC of Nottingham are bringing out a new line of shoes, don't start going off on one just purely about systems. Start talking about external influences, about fashion, trends, pressure groups. Pressure groups are massive. You get 20 people outside your organisation waving a banner, you know, and you've got all your clients coming to see you on a day-to-day basis. They'll close your firm down. Okay, pressure groups on animal experimentation at John Moore University in Liverpool a couple of years ago. Everybody that worked there, they were having all their cars scratched with pig, and they were coming out and there was pig feces thrown, pig crap thrown all over the cars, and they were following them home, and they were spray painting their houses. After a while, they couldn't employ anyone. Nobody worked there. Would you? Do you imagine saying, oh yeah, you work there, you better live in a high security complex somewhere, they'll follow you home. And they were sending threatening letters, you know, to the kids at school, and your dad tortures animals for a living, and your dad injects rabbits' eyes for a living, and your dad, and it's, you know, so that's a pressure group. Pressure groups are very, very powerful, so you need to understand external influences like pressure groups, trade unions, fashions. If you don't respond to these and you live on planet me, you won't be in business very long. Now, a system, an ICT system, is there to help you understand these pressures and then respond accordingly to it. Okay, and you also need these pressures communicated to you. So you need to be aware of the boundaries that exist within. It's no good sitting locking yourself behind a wall, not reading the papers, not looking on the internet, not reading your emails, and all this is going on out on the planet, and then wondering why you're not in business 5 years later. Okay, so holistically, you understanding it again? Yeah. Good. Technologically, well, the tech bit at the end, I don't have to explain. Do I have to explain? You know, technological developments, what's going on in the world in terms of Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, satellite connectivity, the tablets, different operating systems. To be honest, that's where you should tell me about it. You probably know more about it than me. I mean, if I need my phone sorting out, I'd let one of you do it. I don't know. I mean, how far can you Bluetooth? Anyone?
Like a mile, isn't it? No.
Bluetooth?
No, not that.
Roughly. Give me a rough.
It's in meters, isn't it?
Yeah, there you go. I've never taught you that. And straight, see, your age group know this stuff. I tell you now, I think it's 10 metres, isn't it? Or 9 metres. After 9 metres, it falls away, it attenuates. And it's also, it's like, would you Bluetooth your medical records to someone?
No.
Or if you were in a bank, would you Bluetooth some private details across an office to someone? Why not? Because it's yeah, it's not a secure environment. So you see, even by virtue of the fact that you're dwelling within it, even by virtue of the fact that you're dwelling within that environment, You become acutely aware of technological developments like Bluetooth, let's just list some off so that you might be able to be in the exam room. And should we just do some between us? Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, hot desks, satellite, what? Smartphones. Smartphones is a convergence of technologies, isn't it? It's where tablets, phones, laptops, DVDs, TVs, and all that are all converging on one device. So you've got smartphones, Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, sat-nav, GPS stuff. You know, where you can have a chipset put in stuff. Now you can even GPS your kid's phone, can't you? You can pay so much, and it tells you within 10 feet where they are. Different applications. Look at the apps that you're getting. Look at the different operating systems that you're getting. You know, with Honeycomb and things like that. What else you got? What you got? Tablets. Yeah, tablets. Interactive TV. Be aware of interactive TV. And if they start talking to you about what have any of you lot got interactive TV home? What does it? What's the nature of interactive TV? You can say what? Yeah, press red to interact. You can vote, can't you? You can vote online. You can even choose camera angles, can't you? Yeah, pause, back, hold, record, multiple channels, and all the rest of it. So it sounds to me as though I know, ironically, in ICT, I don't really have to tell you much about the T in terms of real life situations because you live in it, aren't you? You got Blue and Me in phones as well. Have any of you got hands? Have you got in your Fiesta? Have you got hands-free stuff now? Automatic Blue, where you just press it and you go. I hate that. What else we got? Right, so what I've covered there is the organisation structure, C and ICT, boundaries, physical and logical, influences upon the organisation, pest and SWOT analyses, which all of pest is external, it's all macro. SWOT, half it's micro, half it's macro. And then you've got new systems will support all of these and how you can bring your boundaries down. Are we all good with that? Does that sort of now open the doors, that should theoretically open the doors to the system's life cycle, because now you should theoretically have a rough understanding of what you're hoping to go into an organisation to bring to them and to take to them. You don't sell people, you never sell people. I don't want to sound like a sales exec here, but you don't sell, they use buzzwords, I hate it, but it is actually true here. With systems, you don't sell a system, you don't sell a computer, you sell a solution to their problem. Now that's very 70s, don't sell a window, sell a solution to a problem. Their problem's they're cold, sell them a window. You know what I mean? Now that's going back to the 70s and 80s when they picked up on Japanese theory. But it does work, it really does work for systems. You've got a problem, nobody, like I say, companies very rarely spend a quid unless they're going to make a penny or save a penny. Okay, they won't just sort of say, oh, let's spend some money today. Why? They'll always say why. Now hopefully you could bring home to them all this theory here, because it's either going to increase their, decrease their costs or increase their turnover. And you're only going to do that as long as they're acutely aware of how they interact as an organisation within the country and within their environment. You need to be aware of competitors as well and how you respond to competition. Some people would say that competition is a bad thing. It's not. Competition's a good thing. That's why you have a monopoly. My monopoly is not allowed because you've got complacency. When companies don't have competition, they become complacent. They can charge you what they want. The product can go downhill, and then without getting into politics. That's why some people don't like nationalising companies. Governments running companies, because they've got no competition, so they don't have to be efficient. And nowadays, when Thatcher came in, she denationalised everything, and all of a sudden everyone became dead competitive, and they had to start cost saving. And then later on, I'll go into JIT systems, just in time, which is another complacent approach that you can have. I know you're probably thinking, what the hell's this got to do with ICT? But it will all come together. If you have stock levels like that really high, and you don't need them that high, and you're sitting on tons and tons of stock levels, as the stock levels drop and drop and drop, they tend to show you problems in your manufacturing, because you're covering your backside. You've got tons and tons of stock. Doesn't mean to say that you're efficient. It just means to say that you're laying loads of overtime on. But you've got a lot of systems problems. So when companies go over to JIT, which is only holding enough stock for that moment in time, that highlights all sorts of problems within the organisation. Okay, more complacency. So are we good to go? I'll leave that at that. Yeah. So that's it for that one.